everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And today we have a bonus episode. We are talking about the new Mean Girls movie that has come out, and we'll talk about the original and the Broadway show. And it's just going to be super fun. And I have with me a not very mean girl. I have Kristen Maldonado is here. And Kristen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This has been my most anticipated movie of 2024, even though it's only like what, 2 weeks into the year, but like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm so excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I always look forward to musicals. I'm very forgiving when it comes to musicals. The musicals that a lot of other people hate. I say a Dear Evan Hansen or something like that that people hate. I found some value in. Let's put it that way. So I am pretty forgiving when it comes to musicals. But yeah, I was excited. I was really, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But I was really bummed out with the marketing of this movie and how they were promoting it. So that did hurt my enthusiasm just a little bit, but yeah, it seems like it's actually, so maybe their marketing actually did well, because it seems like it's going to do pretty well this weekend. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what people think. But I guess we should start by talking about the original. And um, I guess, where is your fandom as far as that original movie? Is it a favorite of yours?
I mean, yeah, I definitely love the original movie. I think it really like is such a classic. Rachel McAdams, I think, is just like amazing in everything she's in. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's really hard to like even hold a candle to anything that she does.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that they did such a great job of like giving us such very specific iconic characters in the original where like it is kind of hard to live up to that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's like a lot of pressure for,
Yeah.
new project. But it's also like really funny because it's like an adaptation of a book and an adaptation of a movie and an adaptation of a Broadway show. Like there's just so many levels to it. Like who knew that like this one story could like have so many iterations.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So when the movie came out in 2004, I was actually on my mission for my church. So I didn't see it in theaters. I didn't see it when it came out. But of course,
Mhm.
by the time I got home, which was 2005, I'd heard, nothing but raves about it. And so then I went and saw it, and I really enjoyed it. I was kind of pointing out on Twitter. I think it's easy to compare it to Clueless, and Clueless was that movie for me for my high school years. It came out when I was a freshman in high school, and I do think that it's a little bit, because it has those Jane Austen roots. I think
Mhm.
it's a little bit more successful as like a romantic comedy, and as a like piece of comedic kind of romantic writing. I think it's a little bit better, but I think that probably Mean Girls is stronger as far as like your social kind of commentary and what it's saying about the way we interact, and the way particularly women and toxic femininity and the way we judge each other and all that kind of stuff. Is It has, I would say that Mean Girls probably has a little bit more to say,
Mhm.
where I think that Clueless is probably, in my opinion, like the better comedy in the and but they're both really quality films.
Yeah, I think I like Mean Girls more just because I feel like Clueless is so many vignettes of like
Mm,
things put together, whereas like Mean Girls is telling like, one
mm.
narrative
I can
story.
see that. I can see that. Yeah, yeah, I can see that. And do you have sort of favorite parts of the original film?
Oh man, there's so many good ones. Um, well, I rewatched the movie more recently, and there was so many things I realized that went over my head when I was younger that I didn't
Yeah,
understand. Like
right.
even the whole plot of like Janice hating Gretchen, not Gretchen, Janice hating Regina because she called her like a lesbian is because by the end of the film, she thought when Janice was Lebanese that it was the same thing. Like she didn't understand. And that went over my head completely when I was a
Oh,
kid. I did
right.
not understand that she was like, "Oh, I'm Lebanese. That's my background," and that they were confusing the words. when they were, younger or whatever in the story. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like that completely went over my head.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but even like, the Danny DeVito, I love your work line, that's always a funny one to look back on. And Gretchen's Roman Empire of literally the Roman Empire with the Julius Caesar. So those were some
Hmm.
some definite favorites of mine, I would say. Um, but I just thought
Yeah,
the plastics as a whole are just such a strong unit. Like,
yeah.
love it.
It's a
What
really
about you?
well cast movie. And I think probably my favorite part of the original film is probably the Halloween scene is so funny, and the whole commentary on sexy costumes and everything like that. By not dressing by not dressing sexy, you're shaming us. It's really funny.
Mhm.
And I think that and then I think that Tim Meadows is so funny in the original. I didn't leave I didn't leave Harlem for this, or whatever it
Mhm.
is. That he's real. I think that he is a highlight, Mr. Duvall in the original. The what does he say? That I did not leave the South Side for this.
Mhm.
And I don't. I think he gets a lot of really good lines.
Mhm.
In Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind the scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies. So then we had and we'll talk more about each individual character in each of the iterations, but then we had the Broadway musical. And I didn't see it on Broadway, but I saw it in 2022, I think. The national tour
Oh,
came
nice.
through, and so I got to see it.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's interesting because this new version did cut out a lot of songs, so we'll talk about that. But it's a show that has a lot of songs, so it's gonna happen.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's interesting because it was the Broadway musical was the book was written by Tina Fey, and that is something probably kind of unique to all three of these is that to have the same writer through all three.
Yeah, so hopefully keeping, the core of what
Hmm.
we're initially trying to do throughout
Yeah,
all the
yeah, yeah.
humor, because she has so
Hmm.
many funny lines that she comes up with. I'm just like, that's hilarious. How do you keep
Yeah.
thinking? It's probably interesting to be like taking the same scenes and rewriting the jokes, like switching them out over and over again for so many different projects.
Hmm.
You're taking those same moments. So that must be like a challenge. Or maybe they have
Yeah.
so many funny lines. They're like, let's switch out this one. Let's see how this one works.
Hmm. Yeah, and what was really nice about the musical is that it gives the some of the supporting characters a little bit of a chance to shine. Like you get to know Aaron a little bit better, you get to know Karen definitely a lot better, and Gretchen. I would say those are the characters that get the most expansion, especially Karen in the musical, and so I think that that's just something nice because you just have more time in a Broadway show than you do in a movie. And
Mhm.
you have not gotten to see the musical, or correct? You didn't see it on Broadway.
I have not seen it on Broadway. I might have, taken a look at some slime tutorials online, might have
Yeah,
taken a
yeah.
little look. Um, but I think what's so cool about this project is just like, you know, getting a chance to dive deeper into like the world in so many different ways and like seeing how many different people are able to like kind of take on these roles and like bring
Yeah.
to them. I think that's always fun. That's one of the things I love about Broadway in general that I like. I feel like sometimes we don't give them a chance in like TV and film, but like so many different people come in and play these roles and just like switching out one person can completely change the show. And I
Mm,
think that's
that's
so
true.
cool.
Well, and it's cool too because we kind of had like three generations almost take on this material because you've got 2004, 2016, and then your current one, 2024. So it's I mean it came to Broadway in 2018. And it had a pretty good run. It was there for 2 years. The only reason it closed was of COVID, that in 2020, when Broadway closed.
Right.
But I really enjoyed it. I I've seen the bands visit that won the Tony that year for Best New Musical, and I don't understand. That was a weird year for the Tonys because every single musical for New Musical was based on a movie. So that was
Yeah.
sort of because Frozen was also
Yeah.
nominated that year, and the band's visits based on a movie, and Mean Girls obviously based on a movie, and so and I forget the other one, but yeah, it's interesting trend in musical theater
Mhm. It
that
definitely.
almost every new musical is based on a movie.
Yeah, or based on something else. Yeah, like even now, like Wicked was a book, but
Yeah,
before that it was, The Wizard of Oz. We have Back to the Future now, which I thought was amazing.
yeah, that
Um,
was fun.
it's just there's a lot of like interesting, pulling from other sources or pulling
Hmm.
from other books or film to turn it into a
Yeah, the I mean, you have some original stuff every once in a while, like Strange Loop or Hades Town, or something like that, or Hamilton, of course. But the it's just, I mean, it makes sense because it's such a risk. It's such a risk to put on a Broadway show. You want to try to have something that people know and recognize.
Mhm.
You know, it's like those people who do Broadway shows. They are they got guts because it's so hard to make it a success. There's
Mhm.
so many good ones that come in and only last a couple of weeks.
I know, I feel like nowadays everything's getting
Oof.
like shut down, like closing like so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
Yeah, it doesn't even give you a chance to see it.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, but I feel like I wasn't seeing a lot of shows for a while until like I feel like there was a time frame of like till like maybe 2022 where like I hadn't seen a lot of Broadway shows in a while. I'm like, what was I doing? I should
Yeah.
like I'm in the city like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I should go and see more shows and try to take more advantage of that because there's so many. I'm like, man, I can't believe I missed that.
Mm-hmm.
I have
Yeah.
tons to watch.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the new movie. So this is our musical movie, and I guess let's talk a little bit about this ad campaign. It's just so like frustrating because uh it's like if Hollywood, they say, oh well, musicals don't sell, then why are you greenlighting them? Like I just feel like if you make the movie, you need to sell the movie.
Mm.
Like don't greenlight something if you're not gonna, I don't know, it's just so weird. And so yeah, they have pretended like it's not a musical in the
Yeah,
ads.
that I wish that they didn't do that because I'm like, where's the like I wish they dropped the album already. Like I want to
I
listen to
know.
it.
Well,
But
and it's so weird because I would have zero interest if this was just a straight remake. None. The only thing about it to me that was interesting was that it was a musical.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I really like all these young actors. That was like what initially drew me in, other than the part that it's a musical, was that
Hmm.
like, this is all like people from stuff that I watch, like Love Victor or The Sex Lives of College Girls or
Mm.
um, just like a whole bunch of different projects, like all these young like rising stars that I'm like, oh my God, I love that. I love your work. Danny DeVito, I love your work. But so that like from the beginning, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait for this cast. And then when they announced that they were going to go from Paramount Plus to putting it in theaters instead first, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait. Like, this is going to be awesome. But yeah, they haven't really been promoting it. And I have liked all the trailers. I know other people haven't, but they also like haven't shown us really much of anything. Like
No.
they don't really show you a lot of what's it, which I guess can be a good thing because sometimes trailers give away too much and you're like, now I know the whole thing. I feel like this, when you watch it, like will surprise you still with things that like they've changed or done
Hmm.
differently.
I just feel
Um,
like they've made it look so generic, and that's just so strange to me that that's the thing that their people think is going to sell, and evidently is working because I guess it's supposed to have a really pretty big weekend. But I guess that's why I'm not making marketing decisions for the
then you
studios
see
because that's
like
not what
stuff
I would do.
Then you see stuff like Wonka and The Color Purple, where they also like didn't want to promote that it was a movie, that it was a musical at all. Like nobody, I feel like knew Wonka was a musical,
Yeah,
and the
it's so
music
weird.
isn't. I didn't think the music was good in that one at all. But The Color Purple, I've even heard of people being like, "Wait, I didn't know this was a musical. This doesn't
Yeah.
represent what
Well,
I
and
grew
yeah,
up
and then
with
you
the
feel
book
like
and the
bait and
original
switched.
film." Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
thought both of them. I mean, I thought I didn't like Wonka, but I thought The Color Purple was beautiful, and I loved the music in that as well. But I think it can be confusing because people, it's like when you go to take a
Yeah.
sip of water and you think it's water, but then it's like Sprite or something, and you're like, oh my God, I'm
Right.
not prepared for that taste. Do I like it or not? I don't know, but I wasn't ready, you
Yeah.
know?
No, it's true. I mean, it's kind of like when A24 will put out they will promote a movie and they don't tell people that it's a horror movie. And so then they go and they don't tell people that it's like a super artistic. And I mean, now we kind of know with A24, but and then they're expecting a horror movie and they end up getting something that's not like people. It makes people, I think, extra hard on the movie sometimes when they don't set the expectations correctly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But let's talk about this new movie. So you were a huge fan of it. You loved it.
I loved it. I saw it a second time just to like confirm, like, did I really love it or was I just like, no? And I loved it. I loved it.
Hmm. Yeah.
I thought it was great.
what
I
did
love.
you what
Mhm.
did you love about it? So what was your
Okay.
favorite some of your favorite stuff?
So I liked the updates to the script. I loved how they interweaved like the Broadway songs in. I feel like it felt like you're stepping into each character's brain when you watched the musical numbers. Um,
Hmm.
some of my favorite ones, I loved how they did the song when Regina is like, you know, when someone gets hurt, the way that they like set that scene up in the party and everyone's kind of like shaking. Like I thought that was so cool and different. I thought the ensemble was almost like a character in itself. I thought they were like they really brought so much energy to the whole production. I thought they were so awesome. And then to me, like Janice and Damien were like the standouts. Like they stole the whole show to me. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah. I liked it. I thought it was okay. I did feel like that the music was really the only thing for me that like really differentiated it from the original. Like to me it felt a little bit like it had some of the problems of the Disney live action remakes. Like for almost all of them, I would always pick to watch the original over the Disney live action remakes. I mean, not
Mhm.
only just because I'm a huge animation fan, but just because they're, I think, better, except for Pete's Dragon. And so I would always pick those. And I felt a little bit with that like I enjoyed this. It was fun. I liked, songs and some other things about it, but I would always pick the original every time. I just because I think the original was funnier, it leaned more into the comedy, and I don't know, I just think it was a little bit better. So I would always pick to watch the better version.
I feel like like the original, I think was a little bit edgier. Like they definitely
Yes.
removed like some of the controversial things in
Yes.
this one, which I didn't mind that they removed those things. Um, I felt like kind of what I said before, like the plastics themselves, like it's really, really hard to top what the original one did, but I did think that they like each brought their own unique
Yeah.
perspectives. I thought the Janice and the Damien were like on par with the original. Like I was like I could go either way. Like I thought that they had such like phenomenal performances and then like with adding the music on top of that, I thought they
Hmm.
were. like
I
pop.
do agree with you about but especially Janice and Damien. So in the original movie, they're played by Lizzie Kaplan and Daniel Franzese.
Mhm.
And here we have Cravallo and Jaquel Spivey. And Olay especially, she was stole the movie, in my opinion. She was by far the best part. And I could almost had the movie be about her. A spin off about her because she was a really interesting character.
Yeah, I thought that they nailed it, and I like I'm so happy for Jaquel Spivey because I feel like he is just everything he's been in, he's like knocks it out of the park, and like he's
Hmm.
just been getting all this acclaim, and like he deserves it.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Jen Johans, host of the podcast Watch with Jen, which delivers a steady stream of great movie recommendations, thoughtful career deep dives, and first rate conversations with film critics, authors, actors, journalists, filmmakers, and more. You can find Watch with Jen wherever you get your podcasts or hear us first at our Patreon at patreon.com/filmintuition.
The other casting I really thought was strong was I'm not sure how to say her name, Angerie.
Oh,
Uh,
and Gary Rice.
and Gary, okay, and Gary Rice as Katie. I think that she was more believable as a awkward nerd than Lindsay Lohan. That and so like the transformation and the awkwardness, it just in the original you're just kind of like, come on, Lindsay Lohan, like she's beautiful and gorgeous and. And not that Angeri's not, but she just was more believable to me as like the nerdy girl.
Yeah, I liked her transformation because I
Mm-hmm.
like seeing like the contrast because she is good at playing like a mean girl as well. She played one in Honor Society. And I liked the transformation best. I didn't think she was the strongest singer out of everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
So I felt like to give her the like new song, you know, how like they added like a few new songs, like I didn't think that maybe that was the strongest choice. I think they could have given it to somebody else, maybe even someone like, you know, like the Damien character, given them like a new song. But I mean, I think it made sense with like trying to condense things. But I guess like the way that she portrayed the role, you didn't need to be the strongest singer. Um, but I feel like everyone else was, so it kind of like evened itself out. Whereas like there's been other productions like I feel like Sweeney Todd, where I was like, this cast can't really sing. Like, why are
Yeah.
we picking non-singers?
Well,
This I feel like they picked majority singers, and like there was some people who, you know, maybe were not as strong as others, but like 99% of the cast was like pretty strong.
yeah. I just saw a fan of the opera for New Year's. That was really fun, and I do think it's a little underrated as far as a movie musical. People act like it's absolutely terrible, and I don't agree with that. But the singing was not the best, and just like, why did you pick the? Because I mean, I get it. Gerard Butler is a star, is famous, but like, there's so many other people that are famous that could play
They
the
could
Phantom.
sing,
Like,
yeah,
what? Why did they do that? I have no idea. And yeah, it is interesting with casting because they also they eliminated all of the singing parts for Aaron in this. And they have Christopher Briney playing Aaron, and I was like, I bet you he can't sing. I mean, that's why they did that. And I looked at his Wikipedia, and it said he originally turned down the role when it required him to sing, but eventually accepted when the role's singing parts were cut. It's like, there you go.
yeah. I feel like they really went into this trying to choose like the hot young stars. Like I know Angary Rice said that like Tina Fey emailed her and said, we want you to do this. And like they emailed him and said, we want you to do this because, you know, he's been blowing up with The Summer I Turned Pretty. But I feel like they picked the wrong brother, my opinion. He's great,
Yeah.
but I feel like to me, I see him more as like a JD and Heathers than as like an Aaron Samuels. And if he can't sing, like, and I know that even in the Broadway show, like I think they had, what was his name, like Cameron Dallas or something, and he can't sing, whichever guy it was. And so they
Mm-hmm.
cut his lines in the Broadway show too when he was doing the run. But
Oh, interesting.
it's like,
Yeah.
why cast a person in a musical if they can't sing? Like, I feel like that's like one of the things that I thought was a little bit disappointing was like let this man have a song, like pick someone who's actually a singer that's like cute, or like give someone like a rising star like a chance, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or they could have picked somebody maybe who they could have, it would have been interesting if they'd cast like a person of color or somebody like a little bit just unexpected. Like he was I guess I have watched The Summer I Turned Pretty, but I just was kind of like he's fine, like, but it is confusing when you think like why not pick somebody who can sing who's also pretty, who,
Yeah.
could be an interesting choice for them. And I don't think that they had like the chemistry that Jonathan Bennett and Lindsay Lohan have
Yeah. I think
in the
also what I
original.
liked about the original was like I didn't really know who a lot of the people were. And
Yeah.
other than Lindsay Lohan. So then to me, like looking back, I'm like, oh my God, like these people like this like started their careers, like they're like
Yeah.
stars, like, I didn't know who
Yeah.
Jonathan was. I didn't know who like Amanda Seyfried was. So like I don't
Hmm.
know.
It's
Then looking
true.
back, I'm like, oh my God, like they killed it. Like, and I think for a lot of people, they might not know who these people are either, and it'll be the same type of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
It's too bad they couldn't have gotten Lacey Chabert. I'm sure she was just too busy making Hallmark movies, but to do a cameo because she's a good singer. I mean, she's done Broadway,
yeah, yeah.
you know. So
Mhm.
that might have been fun, but yeah, I love her as Gretchen. I don't understand why they got rid of a lot of Gretchen's personality in this new version. Like, why not make her father the inventor of the toaster strudel like that? I don't know. I just think they took out a lot of things like that.
Was that in the musical?
Oh, I can't remember if it was in the musical or not, that detail, but I don't know. I just think that things like that were funny.
The little bit of the slam tutorials that I was looking at, I felt like a lot of the lines were from the musical that I was like, oh,
Mm,
okay, that's where that came from. Like they did take a lot from like at least the
hmm.
first act. Like some of the lines word for word. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Let's talk about Renee. So she had a pretty tough task of because and Regina's just such an iconic character. Rachel McAdams' performance is so iconic. And one thing I think that they did that her performance and they did in this movie is they definitely make Regina more sympathetic. I saw a thing on, I saw a thing in there that like somebody was saying like she's the hero of the movie. And somebody was saying that I can kind of see like they definitely make you feel a little bit bad for Regina. By the time she gets hit by the bus, you're like, oh, and they have a little bit more after that. I think that that was interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I guess, like, when you think about it, like, what did Regina really do? I mean, yeah, she, like, had, comebacks for people. She was always defending her. Like, in this, she was really, like, I mean, sometimes she had an attitude to them, but, like, she was trying to help out Gretchen, get the guy and all this stuff. Yeah, they were
Mm-hmm.
making fun of Katie, but, they welcomed her under their wings. Like, she didn't do great things. She wasn't a great person, but also, like, did she really, like, deserve to, like, have people coming after her and like trying
Mm-hmm.
to ruin her entire life just because she like wasn't, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
nicest. I don't know.
Well, I mean, in this one, they really kind of make it clear that she's like trying to be nice to Katie and like bringing
Yeah.
her into, their group, and she
I kept trying to
sees
think,
her.
what's the motivation for that? Like that's something
Hmm.
that I kept thinking about. Like why?
Yeah.
Because she's new and they want to like
Hmm.
maybe they don't get a lot of new people. Like what is the
Well,
motivation for
and
like
she
why
sees
she's
her as
being
being like really awkward and really like, oh, I've got to rescue. It's kind of similar in a way too in Clueless when with Ty and Sharon
but
and
at least
Dion.
Sarah and
Yeah.
Dion were like genuinely like nice popular girls. Like they were nice
Hmm.
popular girls. These are mean girls. So was it just that they were like, oh, there's a new girl, like we kind of want to make fun of her, so like let's bring her in? Like
Hmm.
what was I don't know.
That's
I'm
true. That's a good point.
the
Like,
motivation.
what in the plot, aside from it needing to be in the plot, like what is their motivation
Yeah.
to helping Katie
I
out?
think that's like one of the things that like I I think that's part of why I felt like I needed to watch it again because like I didn't get it. Like I don't know if that's like a script thing or an acting thing. I'm just like, what is the like why? Why do they want to help this
Mm-hmm.
girl? And even
Yeah.
like Janice and Damien, like they have their own little clique. Like they're doing their own thing alone. So like why are they like, ah, well, we'll help you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's something to think about
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. So then you have Avantika playing how was it?
Avantika.
Avantika. So you have Avantika
Mhm.
playing Karen, and I think she did a pretty good job of playing the idiot, role, but being
So
funny and
funny.
cute. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like her a lot. I've seen her in a bunch of things. She had her own Disney Channel original movie spin about like being like an Indian girl who
I
wants to
like
do
that
it.
spin.
Yeah. And then she was in senior year and I actually got to speak to her for senior year and I was like, "You're so talented. Like, what do you think about being on Broadway?" And she was like, "I would love to." And then they cast her in Mean Girls and I was like, "Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
There's her Broadway moment." Um I loved her song Sexy. I thought she was so funny in that. Um, and she just had like these really funny like lines, like when Regina has the pimple and she's like, "Oh, like sexy, it's like a face breast." Like you're just like, "What?" Or like
Yeah.
using the grilled cheese for her like highlighter. Like I don't know. It's just a lot of funny
Yeah, that
silly
was
things. But she's also like there's like an innocence to her. Like she was the only one that was like, "Don't worry, I'm still your friend."
yeah.
I'm still your friend.
Yeah. Gruel.
Like she's very like sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they did a good job of making her likable, yeah, and sweet, while also being clueless. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Hmm.
funny. Of course, Amanda Seyfried in the original, and she's funny as well. And I thought they did a lot with this with Gretchen's character, BB Wood, as far as making her really kind of the co-lead almost of the movie. Like you really got to know her, and it's too bad they cut Fearless because that's a good song for Gretchen
Mm,
in the musical. But it's hard because it's so interesting because the other day on Instagram, one of the people was saying, "Oh, there were just too many songs. It was so many songs," and I'm like, they cut 14 songs.
yeah.
14 songs, including six pretty major songs from the musical. And so it was probably very painful, but they cut Where Do You Belong, Fearless, Stop, Whose House Is This, More Is Better, and Do This Thing, which were all, pretty like full songs. And then the rest of the 14 are like transitions and reprises and things like that. But
Yeah.
still, yeah, they cut a lot.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like watching it, well, going back to what you were saying about Gretchen, I didn't think she was as strong as some of the other leads. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
not that it was more like not that she wasn't good. She was good, but I didn't think it was like a standout kind of role. And then
Mm-hmm.
like her song even, I felt like that song was so awkwardly placed.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was just like, what? I don't know if we needed this. Like I would have maybe cut that out. No offense to anybody. I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't think it like made sense. Like I think they could have done it in a different way maybe. Um
Her song's called What's Wrong with Me.
yeah, yeah. It felt like weirdly short but also weirdly
Mm-hmm.
long and like out of place.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
and
I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't just have Fearless, which is like a really good song that she sings. But it's more towards the end of the musical. And so maybe that's why.
yeah.
Um, maybe
And then
they
with the music that I've like
it's the
from
end of the
watching,
first act is Fearless.
I feel like with the music, like I feel satisfied with like I mean, I don't know all the other songs that were cut, but like from watching it, other than that one song, which I felt was out of place, I felt satisfied with like the direction of all the other songs. The only thing maybe that I felt was missing was, if Aaron sang. But
Yeah.
otherwise, I felt like they gave us all the beats that I was like looking for, I guess. Like I wasn't like,
Uh-huh.
oh, I wish that they did one more. Like I felt like it was complete, I guess.
I think the strongest number as far as the staging and the singing and everything is Revenge Party.
That was
I think
fun.
that was the best, the way that it was filmed. It kind of had a sort of almost a one shot kind of feel, like into the high school and the and everything. I think that that was effective.
I loved that one. I loved Sexy. I loved um when someone gets hurt. I love the way that they like set up the party for that. I thought that was really unique and different. And I loved Janice's song, I'd Rather Be Me. And I felt like
Mm-hmm.
there was none that I was like that other than that one song that Gretchen sings, everything else to me I felt like made sense to me, felt like strong, and I loved it. Whereas like, watching something like Wonka, I didn't like any of the music in that at all.
Oh,
Um,
yeah,
I felt
I like the music in
very
Wonka, but yeah, I for the most part love, I really enjoyed the music. Like I said, I'm a super easy sell when it comes to musicals.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
But I do think that they toned down the comedy quite a bit, and I'm not really sure why. On some of them, like for Mr. Duvall's character, the Tim Meadows character, they toned down a lot of his jokes. And like, for instance, here's an example. The in the original film, in during the apologies, Karen says, that she says, Gretchen, I'm sorry I laughed at you that time you got diarrhea at Barnes and Noble. And then she says, I'm sorry for telling everybody about it, and I'm sorry for repeating it now. And I don't know, they changed it to the Ferris wheel and the people beneath. And and then it didn't have the and I'm sorry for repeating it now. And so I don't know. It's just interesting what they decided to change as far as the jokes.
Yeah, I liked the jokes. I felt like they landed for me. There were definitely ones where I was like, "Oh, I missed that," but I felt like as I was watching the scene, I like sort of said it in my head. It almost felt like a Rocky Horror call out or something where I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, Danny DeVito, I love you." Oh, he doesn't say that, but like he says something else, and I'm like, "Oh, that was, you know, I liked hearing like a different jokes versus hearing like the same things over and over again that we've already seen, like them trying to make different things land. Otherwise, then it does feel like, why did we redo this if you're not going to
Mm-hmm.
like make us laugh in a different kind of way?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
One thing
but
I thought was very effective in the movie is the way that they use social media. I think that could have been very cringe in the wrong hands, but the way that they did it, as far as having like Insta stories and Snapchats and different things like that, and the way they did the burn book, as opposed to having the flyers,
yeah, I thought that was
fall
smart.
all over. They did it where it was through social media. I thought that was pretty good.
I think that also makes it like even more lasting because like it's
Mm-hmm.
one thing if like, your whole school's wallpapered, okay, but like once that goes online, that's forever,
Yeah.
like that's so I thought that was like like a cool like kind of darker
Yeah.
level. But I also loved like the fourth wall breaking. Like there's a couple of fun moments where they're like kind of cheekily like, "Yep, this is a musical movie, like we know."
Yeah, that was fun.
Thought those were really fun and like kind of let you in on the joke.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because you think about it now. Kids today makes me sound like I'm 100, but kids today they have to deal with the fact that they can be photographed at any time, anywhere they go, everywhere they go. Not that they can, they probably will be. And just think about like when I was in high school, my best friend, she one day she walked through the senior hallway with her skirt tucked into her backpack, so she was showing all of her everything, and it was like embarrassing but sort of this funny story, we talked about. Now that would be all over everywhere,
Oh,
and it
that
would
would be
be a
like,
million times like more embarrassing,
yeah. Ugh.
and just think like how much harder stuff like that is now. Like, and it was interesting. The I see you have the Duff book behind you,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
when that movie came out, I there's a sort of a plot at the end of the movie where she gets kind of shamed. And what was interesting on social media, and what was interesting is the attitude that the kids all took in that movie was, eh, just brush it off. Like it happens to all of us, was kind of the attitude. And I was like, really? And I remember talking to my sister, who my youngest sister was born when I was 18, so she's a lot younger than me. And I was like, is that kind of the attitude of like, it's your turn, it happens to all of us, you just, because like if that what had happened to her in that movie, it would be like emotionally devastating for me as a teenager, right? And I was just so surprised that the movie's attitude was like, no big deal. And anyway, and I just talked to my sister about it, and she was like, yeah, that's pretty much, you were just kind of used to it, which is interesting, I think.
Yeah. It's kind of like,
And I think they kind of worked that a little bit into the way they use social media and the way that everybody's kind of promoting themselves within the high school.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Standout songs or moments for you that you loved?
I liked how they had Janice and Damien narrating. I felt like they did
Mm,
it in like a successful way where it didn't feel like overwhelming, but there was like at least like three or four like key moments where they like came back in and were like, we're narrating, and like making it like really fun.
mhm.
Um and even like foreshadowing like the whole bus thing like a couple of times in ways that I was like, like I saw this movie twice already, and the first time it was just like a press screening where everyone was kind of like mostly quiet, and the second time was in like a room full of people, and watching it the second time and seeing everyone's like reactions to things like made it
Mm,
even funnier because like you really got like the energy of everybody like realizing something was silly and then just like I don't know,
yeah,
everyone starting to laugh or like being like or like some of
yeah.
the shocking reveals. Like my friend that was with me didn't know any of the spoilers yet, which I was like, thank God, because some people, like some outlets are already even sharing like big spoilers. And when certain things happened, he was like, and it was cool to see like his reaction. And
Had they
then
not seen the original? They didn't
he
know?
had, but like even seeing it now, like there was things in this that I was surprised by, or like that I didn't remember, or that they
Hmm.
changed, or that I was like, wait, does that happen? Like, you know, or just like big moments of like cameos that even he didn't
Mm,
realize, or you
yeah,
know, just the way that they like tried to surprise you with things. Like even
yeah.
that first time when like Katie's crossing the street and the bus comes, everyone was like, even though nothing happened, but like, you know, everyone was like going crazy.
It is true that, so I've only seen the one time it was a public critics screening. So there were like members of the public there, and it was a very boisterous crowd. Everybody was like hooting and making comments and no, like, no, girl, you didn't do that, or, whatever. Like, I was surprised that it was such an animated audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that that's fun. And it like,
Hmm.
I think that's what this deserves. And that's why I'm like glad that it's in theaters because I
Yeah.
feel like it like benefits from having just like the fun of like watching it with friends or something, you know?
Yeah. And well, and it was smart to do it in January because, like, what else are people gonna see?
I'll tell you, this is the best movie I've seen this year so far.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And the one like surprise, which I thought was very weird. Why did they have Mr. Duvall and Miss Norbury married? Like,
I liked
that was
it.
weird. It
I
was.
thought it was cute. I thought that was a way to like take from the original movie and like give it another layer of like, oh wait.
Yeah.
So like were they together that whole time? Like, You know, there was a couple of moments where I felt like they made jokes to the original movie, like with that, or like when they're trying to talk about Fetch and they're like, oh yeah, it's from like some old movie, like Juno, I think. I'm like, that is so silly. Like I
Oh
love
yeah.
those references back to the like,
Juno.
or like when they talk about like the mathletes and they're like, this is the second time this has ever happened. Like,
Hmm. In general, I thought most of the adults were a downgrade from the original.
really? I thought they
Yes,
were an
I
upgrade.
really. I see like Busy Phillips. I
I thought
as
she was perfect. I thought she literally looked identical to Renee Rapp. Oh my God. Well,
yeah, I just
I
wasn't
thought
as
they were
funny
great.
to me as the in the original. I didn't think Tim Meadows was as funny. I didn't think that Tina Fey was as funny. In general, they kind of sanded those characters down for me.
Oh, I thought they were great. I had fun.
Hmm.
I was excited about it.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
Renee Rapp and Busy Phillips like perfect mother-daughter casting to me.
Hmm.
Like I felt like honestly some of the adults I felt like felt more natural, like just like they were just doing it, you know,
Yeah.
like they like embodied them to the roles
Hmm.
to me.
It was
Um
fun to see Ashley Park, who's of course Gretchen in the musical. It was fun to see her
Yeah,
as one of the
I'm so
teachers.
excited to see her career has grown so much and blossomed so much. So to see her making a cameo there as one of the teachers, I was like, that's awesome. And that was when they had already revealed, but like even my friend next to me was like, oh my God, Ashley Park. And I'm like, you didn't know it in the promos, but like, yes, I love
Yeah,
her.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
fun. So, yeah, I think we covered it pretty well. I think that it was a fun enough exercise. I think in general I enjoyed it. I thought it was uh, fun to just see a new musical and to see this translated to the screen. For me, I do think, like I said, it sort of has that problem of like, why does this need to exist a little bit? Like, because I don't know, I would just always choose to watch the original over this, but I still overall enjoyed it. But do you have any like parting thoughts
Like,
about
parting.
it?
I loved it. I loved how diverse the cast was. I thought they were for the most part like perfectly cast. I love the Easter eggs and the fourth
Mm-hmm.
wall breaking. And this is like I don't watch a lot of things more than once, but like this was something that like the first time I watched it, I was like, I need to watch it again, I think. And then even after I finished watching it the second time, I was like, I think I need to see it again because like
Yeah.
I just really liked it.
Yeah.
And really do that often. There's very few things where I'm like, let me watch it a couple more times in a row. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so when this goes to Paramount Plus next month, like I'm definitely gonna be playing it a bunch. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
I want the music to drop. Oh, I hope it drops for a little
Mm-hmm.
bit early because I want that soundtrack. I know I'm gonna be listening to it. I'm
Yeah.
just really excited for this one, and I hope people like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that like we get to see these young actors like
Uh-huh.
continue their like have their careers blow up because I loved it. I thought it
Mm-hmm.
was for me best movie of
Yeah.
2024 as of January.
So there's been so many of the, like we talked about, these screen to stage adaptations. Do you have another one that you think that you would like to see the musical version of the movie?
Oh man.
We talked
That's
about Back to the Future. We talked about, I mean,
I
I,
didn't
I do think it's easy to think if this is a hit, then people will probably want Legally Blonde, especially because there's the legally there's the new sequel coming out. I think
yeah. Oh,
sometime.
I would love to see Legally Blonde.
It's
I would
such a
love
good show.
to see them do like Six or Hamilton and like add to like I feel like especially with Six, like you have so much you could add to and like be creative. Um,
Hmm.
but including that music. Um,
Hmm.
oh my God, Waitress. I mean, they just did the pro shop, but like I would love to see that.
Hmm.
Mm,
Yeah, I mean, because the original Waitress movie is like fine, but nothing iconic like Mean Girls.
yeah, yeah. Oh
You
man.
know.
Like what else? There's so many that I would love to see.
Hmm.
One of my favorite shows is Aida. I don't know if they would ever do that, but I would watch it. Um,
Hmm.
Shrek the Musical doing
Mm,
would be so that would be a great
yeah,
one.
it's so good.
That would be a good one. I
Yeah,
would
I
watch
mean that would be
that.
better than the original, in my opinion.
Yeah, because that music is
Yeah.
phenomenal. And I already love
Yeah.
the pro shot of that. So imagine them doing like a
Yeah.
real, oh, that would be so good. Okay, I vote Shrek the musical. Oh.
Yeah. 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 Well, very good. Let us know if you're listening what you think of each iteration of Mean Girls. Do you love the musical? Do you love the original? Do you love this new one? Where do you stand on it? We'd love to hear it in the comments or on Twitter. And Kristen, where can people follow you?
Yeah, you can find me everywhere at Kaymaldo, Kaymaldo, or on my website, popcultureplanet.net, where we cover the world of entertainment while also shining a light on representation and inclusion.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, the Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And also, I have a new podcast I'm so excited that I'm doing with Onstage Blog. If you like talking theater and show tunes and everything, it's the Onstage Blog podcast, and I'm really, really, really excited about it. So please take a look at that. And then if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. It really helps us a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is so much fun, and the merch store. We can get I'm a Theater Girl shirts at the merch store if you want. So it's a lot of fun designs. And thanks again, everybody. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.